everyone, Ara Blue here. I'm going to be continuing my honoring your feelings video. This is going to be part 2 of that video. I will leave a link in the description for part 1 for anybody who wants to watch that first, but obviously I'm not going to say that's necessary material, but it would be good to watch. That video specifically focuses on honoring your feelings from a physical standpoint, and this video is going to do more to kind of elaborate on how we can honor our feelings in a mental standpoint and how the two kind of come together. And so I'm going to try and keep this one a lot shorter than I kept the last one. The last one was about 30 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and jump right into it. So this is part 2 of honoring your feelings. So we live in a world where we have been taught to stigmatize our intuition. We have been taught that if what we feel isn't rooted in some type of logical thing that we can point to, that means it is not valid, and that is not true. I am somebody who I love science myself, but I do have to stop and say that a lot of times people make very, very, very illogical and stupid decisions, mainly because they don't listen to their intuition. And this video is going to be focusing a lot on intuition because it is a big factor in obviously listening to yourself. For those of you who may be a little hazy on the concept of intuition, your intuition is essentially your inner voice. It is your internal guided system. It is your subconscious mind. And I personally believe we all are not everybody's highly intuitive. I'm very highly intuitive, but I think to a certain extent everybody is. And I know a lot of people, there are a lot of non-spiritual people out there, and think of intuition as you would your, again, inner guidance, conscious. It's what guides you, it's what helps you make decisions, and it's a little voice in the back of your head that tells you, hey, maybe I shouldn't do this, or hey, maybe I should take a chance and I should. And a lot of times, I think intuition is a very magical and beautiful and spiritual thing, but if you're not spiritual, honestly, it's us picking up on subtle social cues in a very, very real way. I think it's much more than that, but in a very basic level, it's not even as magical and woo-woo as people make it out to be. It's your body picking up on natural social cues that are seen in your environment. For example, if you get the feeling that somebody's very disingenuous, you may get that because as they talk to you, they may shift their eyes a lot, or they may kind of be looking past you, not directly in your eyes. And it's not something you notice on a surface level, but subconsciously you pick it up and your brain begins to make associations, and then you come up with the ding, this person's disingenuous. But it's kind of one of those things where it really is these little micro subtle things that can be so subtle that our brain is picking up on and then coming to these conclusions. But our forefront mind does not necessarily pick up on these same things. So that's kind of an explanation of intuition from maybe a non-spiritual standpoint, because I am very spiritual. But from a spiritual standpoint, it's a very beautiful and holistic thing that we're gifted with. It's this internal guidance that has been kind of washed away with a lot of Western thinking. It's this whole idea that if we can't point to something directly, that it does not exist. So for example, if you have a really, really bad feeling about somebody and you just can't put your finger on it, but you just have a gut-wrenching feeling about this person, but in your heart, you don't necessarily see anything wrong with that person. You can't point to any behaviors, you can't sense anything, and so you just ignore what you feel, and then you go along with this person. Next thing you know, they rob a bank and you're like, oh my god, I knew it. But then in your head you were like, well, no, I didn't. But it's just that type of going back and forth where it's like you did know it, and it's your body's way of guiding you, and you need to listen. For so many of us, we have ignored our intuition for so long that we've kind of lost it. Our voice in our head has gotten silent. Imagine if you were a little kid and every time you spoke, the adults around you just ignored you and pretended like you weren't there. You would eventually just stop talking, right? So it's the same thing with our conscious. It's the same thing with our intuition. If we don't listen to it, it's just gonna go away. And that doesn't mean it's permanently gone, but that means it's like your conscious is kind of like a person. Your intuition is kind of like, it's literally a little person inside of you. And so with that being said, it's important for you to listen to it, because if you don't, it's going to go into hibernation. It's going to be like, hey, you're not going to listen to me. I'm not going to speak. I rather save my energy. And so it's important that, and again, if you have lost your intuition, or if you have historically not listened to your voice, you can gain it back. Just like if that child's parents started listening to that child, it might take a long time, rightfully so, for that child to open up again, but eventually that child would open up. It would take a lot, but it can happen. I am somebody who at one point I silenced my intuition and I stopped listening to it for a number of years. And within the past 2 years, I've been able to revive it, and it didn't even take the full 2 years. It's just one of those things that when we listen to our voice, it speaks. You know, when you ask for answers, it'll give you answers. But you have to learn how to listen, because our intuition and the voice that comes with our naturally given life source, sometimes it's hard to hear. Sometimes you have to kind of not pitch your ears, but kind of really like tune up your ears to hear it. And not your physical ears, but your spiritual ears. You really have to pay attention to yourself and get to know yourself and trust yourself. And another thing, if your intuition is giving you guidance and you're not taking it, again, same thing. If it's speaking and you're not listening, it's going to stop speaking. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's true. So we have to listen to our intuition. So a good way to start tuning into our intuition is taking about 5 to 10 minutes every day to just sit and allow our brains to filter themselves out. I stated this in the previous video, but I think it's really, this is so important. Not only for our bodies, but for our minds. I think throughout the day, we kind of do create this block in our brains just to kind of filter things out. We kind of build these blocks to kind of fill space so that we can not have as much emptiness in our brains. We don't want to, for many of us, the world is a very hard place, especially for those of us who are marginalized. And so it's one of those things where we kind of create these blockages that have these like little tight gaps in between the big blocks, and we create these types of filters, if that image makes any sense. And so we begin to kind of desensitize ourselves, because if we were to be fully conscious, it would be painful. And so it's one of those things where it's important that when you come home or when you have a moment, even throughout the day, take anywhere from 1 to 10 minutes to stop and kind of allow your brain to filter itself out. So what I mean by that, I know I already said what I mean by that, but your brain kind of has to thaw itself out and become present. And so just sit for 5 or 10 minutes, and you don't have to think about anything. You don't have to think about being mindful. You can just honestly just let your brain thaw, put your phone down, put your computer away, allow your brain to filter through itself. And that can be a big game changer, because that's when that little voice comes through. There's a lady on YouTube, her name's Rowena Sai. I love the name Rowena because somebody I love is named Rowena, and it's such a unique name, and there are probably only like 6 Rowenas in the entire world, but her name's Rowena Sai. I'll put a link in the description once I export this, but she's absolutely amazing. And something that she said is, it is in the silence. She didn't say this. I think I said this, but this is kind of my paraphrase of her thing and what I took from it. In the silence is where we get our best ideas. And in the silence is where we can find our most intrusive thoughts, but it's also where we can find our most brilliant self. And we have to give space to silence and give longevity to silence, because it's where your little voice, it's going to start piping up. And you're not going to hear it again. It is not an audible voice. Hopefully. I hope it's not something you can audibly hear. If it is, you're just, I have nothing to say to that. That's awesome, but also scary. But it's going to be more like a feeling. You're going to get these random thoughts that just bust into your head. Like, oh, did I think of that? Like, your brain will start doing the work if it knows you're going to take it seriously. But if you're not, it's going to stop giving you those messages. So just give yourself 5 minutes a day. It can make the biggest difference. And if you're somebody who you're at work and you have a break, spend 1 minute during your break just stopping and allowing your brain to kind of filter through its own stuff. And that'll make the biggest difference. A minute during your breaks, maybe like a minute in the morning, and then maybe 5 minutes at night. You don't even have to do that. You can just do the 5 minutes at night. Just please sit silently every day for at least 5 minutes. You don't have to meditate. You don't have to cross your legs. You just need to sit down, lay down, crawl in the backseat of your car. I don't know what you do you, boo, but get quiet. And that'll just help your brain not only filter itself out, but it'll make all that space. It'll kind of take down a lot of those blockages and allow your voice to kind of pipe up. And even with those blockages, your voice will still get through. But it's important that, it's kind of like whenever we do mundane things, that's when we get the best ideas. When we're pooping, when we're using the bathroom, when we're taking a shower, when we're going grocery shopping, that's when I get my best ideas. Half the time when I sit down to brainstorm for these videos, I don't have a lick of anything to think of, but I'll be working on my art, or I'll be walking to class, or I'll be on my way to work, and I'm like, bingo, oh, by George, I think she's got it. I just had these thoughts, and I'm like, okay, wow, that just came from me doing nothing. I was literally thinking about nothing, and my brain just kind of came up with that. I'm literally right now thinking about Antonio Garza using the Vine sound effect as she beats her face. How did I come up with an amazing thought? How did I come up with this amazing YouTube idea? So just give yourself that space. I'm going to stop rambling about that. And so a big part of intuition too, and a way you can practice mindfulness with intuition, is getting in tune with the things you like. I know this is going to sound weird, but as somebody who's experienced a lot of abuse and gaslighting, I find myself feeling very buoyant, if that's the right word, just feeling kind of bouncy and floaty and everywhere. And I may want, if I go to a restaurant, I may be craving a cheeseburger or a bacon burger or something, but I'll order a quesadilla just because I'm oh, but I like quesadillas. Not because I want a quesadilla in that moment. I'll just be I like quesadillas, so maybe I should get the quesadilla. Even if I'm craving the burger, I'll order the quesadilla just because it's oh, well, I like quesadillas. It's almost as though I don't trust myself to know what's best for myself. And that's what's scary. You have to trust yourself to know what's best for yourself. And it's one of those things where I had created almost this separate parent version of myself, where I was I know what's best for me. But it's no, you don't. You in the moment knows what's best for you. And yes, there is to a certain extent, when we're making long-term serious decisions, sometimes there does have to be that parental you that steps in, that's hey, no, maybe don't make this decision right now impulsively. But when it comes to, it's you need a balance, because there is a certain level of impulsive decision making that needs to be done that is rational, ordering food, deciding, things that need to be made up in the moment or within an hour, and we need that. And so for many of us, knowing what we like and knowing what's best for us is difficult, because we've been historically taught that we are not smart enough to know what's best for us by our abusers. And so I remember, I don't remember when this was, but I remember I went to an Ace Hardware store because I needed to repot my plants. I have a bunch of plants. I have a really small space, but a lot of plants. I'm a proud plant mama. And I think it was maybe earlier this year or late last year, my plants were starting to wilt and die, and they looked really unhealthy. And I kind of inspected them and did my plant mama routine, and I was ooh, I need to repot all my plants, because they were really big and a lot of their pots were really, really smaller were the original pots that I bought them in. And so I was let me go to Ace and buy some potting soil and some pots. So I go to Ace. I immediately walk in, go to the pot section, and I look at all the pots, right? And I see this pretty red pot, and I'm that is so pretty. And then I see this gorgeous yellow pot, and I'm oh my god, that is so pretty. I think I'm gonna get that. But then I look up and I see this purple pot, and the purple pot was cool. And actually, spoiler alert, I ended up buying it, and I'm looking at it right now, and I'm oh god. So I'm looking at all these pots, right? Red one, beautiful, I love it. Yellow one I liked more than the red one. It was beautiful, I loved it, and I wish I'd gotten it. I don't think they have it anymore. But the purple one I looked at, and I was okay. So fun fact about me, this is gonna tie in. When I was little, I loved the color purple. I loved the color purple when I was little. And the color, not the movie, the color purple, purple. I loved purple, and not even because I loved purple. It was because my older sister, she loved purple. purple. And she was much older than me, and I guess I never really looked up to her, but I think she was just my older sister, and I was like, oh, she likes purple, I'll like purple. So I started liking purple. So as a little kid, I loved the color purple. And so it was so strange because as I got older, I found myself buying purple things and like getting purple things. And it was weird because I was like, I kind of don't like purple. Like, I like it, but I don't like, I'm that person who now I don't have a favorite color. My favorite color depends on how I feel, what energy I have, what energy I'm sensing, what energy I feel like the earth has. Like, my favorite color has no specific root. It is just one of those things where it's like my favorite color changes as my energy changes and as I kind of synesthetically grasp the earth, and then not the earth. I'm not trying to be like, yeah, synesthetically grasp the earth. I'm not trying to be like woo woo, but like, I'm one of those people who I'm very grounded in my senses and I'm very synesthetic. And so I have to kind of pull from a wide variety of things and come up with my favorite color. It kind of happens naturally. So like, let me think. I really haven't thought about it in a while. I feel like lately I've been identifying with a lot of dark greens, and that'll change. And so it's one of those things too where I was buying purple things. All my life I was buying purple things. I still love like pastel lavender. Purple is a beautiful color, and I still like rock it all the time. But it's like I love so many different colors. And so when I was younger, because my sister liked purple and my mom would always be like, you like purple, and like if I tried to buy another color, my mother would like, I have a weird mom, so I'm not gonna get into that today. But it was one of those things where I was always told like, you like purple, and I told myself I like purple. And I realized that, especially since I'm somebody who like so much of my time is consumed with looking at different colors as an artist and like experimenting with color theory and understanding how color can complement certain textures and different things and how color works. And you know, it was strange for me to have picked one color because I love so many colors. And so I was at this Ace Hardware looking at these pots, and I saw the purple pot, and immediately I was like, okay, that's the one, I'm gonna get it. But then in my heart I was like, no, like I like the yellow pot. But then something in me said, no, you like purple, get purple. And I was like, no, I like yellow, I want the yellow pot. And then I look at the red one and I'm like, that one's nice, it's kind of close to purple. And so I end up pulling the purple pot off the shelf and the red one and leaving the pretty little yellow one. And I went and I bought a couple black ones too. I bought like these 2 black pots instead of just buying the one that I knew I liked and buying this. I could have bought 2 yellow pots instead of the 2 black ones, but I was like, no. And so I go to the register, I check out, and I walk out of the store and I'm just feeling down because in my head I was like, what the fuck just happened? Why did I buy a purple pot when I liked the yellow one? Why did I buy a red pot when I wanted the yellow one? Like, the red one's nice. I'm looking at the red one right now, actually. But it's like, wait, but I don't want that. I wanted the yellow one. And I thought about taking it back, and I was like, nah, I'm too lazy for that. And so I just went home, repotted my plants. My plants bloomed into beauty. Like, they got so much better. I lost one little baby cactus, and he was old, and he was gonna die anyways. But all my plants, my jade, my aloe vera, I think my lucky cactus, and I have one other plant, like, they're all just doing amazing. And I repotted them, and I spent the next several months looking at those pots and thinking about that little yellow pot and how much I loved it and how much I told myself I couldn't have it because I liked purple. And that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. And at that moment, I had a breakthrough where I was like, from now on, if I like something, I'm going to like it. And it doesn't matter what historically I have liked or what I have done. If I want something now, I will have that thing now. And again, I don't mean like, right now I feel like jumping on a plane and flying to New York and like spending all my money at a fucking bodega. That's not what's gonna happen. Like, I don't mean like impulsively making these irrational decisions. I mean like, hey, if you go to a restaurant and you want a quesadilla, don't order tapas, or don't order like a fucking enchilada. I need to stop saying the F word, I'm sorry. Or if you typically like the smell of vanilla in a candle, but you find yourself buying passion fruit just because you know, you were told that you smell like passion fruit by a friend. Like, it's just finding these little ways to honor yourself. And, you know, for me, like an example, like this morning, I was like, I should eat eggs for breakfast. And I was like, no, like I want waffles. I'm going to eat waffles. Like, and so I ate waffles and I felt good. And I know that sounds so stupid, but I don't think people recognize like how much we have been taught to literally deny ourselves in the littlest of ways. And our intuition isn't just a little person inside of us. It's us. It's us. And you will be amazed. You will be shocked. And even you might even cry about how much we've been taught to deny ourselves, and how we have been taught to think that we don't know what's best for ourselves and that other people can tell us what's best for us. And this is how we fall into the hands of manipulators, is we think that we don't know what's best for us and we need to rely on other people to tell us what we need, how we need it, when we need it, what's best for us. Like, we need to stop killing our souls. We need to understand that everything we need is inside of us. Everything we need, and we can kind of take those things that are inside of us and use them to pull magic out of other things and make beautiful things. But we don't need other people to tell us what colors we should wear, or what we should wear, or who we need to have in our lives. Or, you know, we don't need hypercritical people. We don't need other people, or even bossier versions of ourselves, essentially, or even like the negative inner critics, which are different than your intuition and are typically the voices of abusers. We don't need that. We know what is best for ourselves. God, source, whoever you believe in, or if you're non-spiritual, I always want to include my non-spiritual people. If you believe in just creation, you were created with everything you need inside of you. And you don't need to reach out to other people and other sources. And yes, you like have other people in your life, but like even when we are with friends and we ask like, ooh, does this look good? Or like, do I look good in this? Like, we're constantly asking for other people's opinions and approval. And to some extent, yes, we need that in certain situations. Like if I'm like writing an essay and I need somebody else to proofread something or tell me if it's good, yes. But like sometimes we just need to learn how to be our own like positive critic. We need to learn how to be our own objective source. And sometimes we just need to trust ourselves. Sometimes we know the answer to something and we ask other people, not because we don't know the answer, but because we don't believe that we're good enough. And that's what all of this boils down to. Us not believing we're good enough, and us not trusting ourselves to know what's best for us. And we can't keep living our lives in such a way that we don't spend time silently listening to ourselves. Like, you have to treat your voice like it's literally a separate person. Pretend like your intuition is a separate person. You can even name it. That sounds like something completely loony, but that's okay. I don't have a name for mine, but I'm just saying, like, name it. Get to know it, sit with it, and hear it cry because of how much you've ignored it, but then make a promise to listen to it because it has a lot to say. And I'm going to go ahead and continue this in a part 3 because I'm reaching 23 minutes and I told myself I'd only hit 13, but this was good. This was really good. And I want to thank everybody who stuck around for this long. I want to thank my subscribers. I want to thank everybody who has supported me, especially in the video I did a couple of weeks ago about Graveyard Girl. I thought that was so awesome. All of you who commented, thank you so much. So yes, I'm going to go ahead and cut this off here. I'm going to go ahead and head into part 3 of this video. If you like my content, please like and subscribe. Thank you so much for sticking around and listening to me. I'd love to hear your comments. Please tell me about some times that you listen to your intuition, or sometimes like what you're struggling with in terms of your intuition, or if you disagree with me, let me know, or like just, you know, let me know how you all feel about this, because I love to engage the community and I love to hear what you all have to say. You know, I think we need more mental health spaces on YouTube, and there's so many good ones already, like New Mind Frame and Dana Morningstar and Lisa A. Romano, and there's so many who do such great work. But you know, I definitely want to open up a lot of discussion and get really specific in things. And also, if you have any suggestions, let me know for future videos. But yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Signing out.